I've been here so many times, I don't care about an introduction, but I wanted to bring my brother on myself personally because you know how you meet people and you just know that you've known them for eternity. It's just instantaneous. And that was before I had heard his music. I'll talk more about it at the event this afternoon, about how we actually met up, but he actually gave me a stack of CDs, which you can get over there, and I would highly recommend. Incredible. And I put one in my car after the second time we had met and actually talked, and with intentions to listening, and then somebody called. So that didn't get played for about 2 weeks, and then I finally put it in, and I had to pull off to the side of the road, literally, to actually on the side of the highway to really let it in. It was so profound. And we've been doing a lot together. Combination of the toning and the prayer and meditation and silence along with Bob's music, which is what this afternoon is going to be. So I want to introduce Bob Sima with a very accentuated I.
Well, your consciousness preceded you because I heard all about you for months. He said, you're not going to believe this place. He said, you just have to be down there. And
he's talking about y'all.
I'm talking about you. Did you know I was talking about you? And thank you. So we walked in the door, and Reverend Jenny was standing over here, and she went, bah! And you know, it's funny, right? But that will stick with me forever. You know, I might not even remember your name. Where are you? Oh, there you are. Well, usually the Rev is right up front, but that's the feeling I got. I got something, and that image of her, just that joy and just that welcoming, was profound. And so it ties into this song I wrote called "How You Made Them Feel." I got this profound line from the beloved poet Maya Angelou, who said, "At the end of the day, people won't remember you for the things you do or the things you say. They'll just remember how you made them feel." So, your words can often fail to sell. The nuance of emotion you try and speak so well, and your actions are to speak louder than your words. Yeah, but somehow all the doing just don't take away the hurt. They won't remember everything you did. They won't remember everything you said, but their heart it won't forget, and they'll always remember how you made them feel. You know your smile can cut right through the thickest heart. It can't take away a lousy day, but it's a heck of a good start. It's not the cards that you send, or the money that you lend, or the standard response. It's the sharing of the silences, the dropping of the differences in forgiveness. 'Cause they won't remember everything you did. They won't remember It's slowing down and listening, really listening to heart when it speaks from honesty. It's part of the great emancipation, disassociation from the separate lives we lead. Because the essence of the question, isn't it all about connection, the mark we leave? Because long after you're gone, your feeling lives on and 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 on. They won't remember everything you did. They won't remember everything you said, but their heart it won't forget. And they'll always remember how you made them feel. How you made them feel.
Completely consumed. I'm like, hey, am I supposed to go up there? Excuse me. I'm just kidding. No, I'm kidding. I use my hair. No, nobody's going to hug me now. Oy, wipe that thought out of the mind. Okay. We're going to go on a little bit of a journey. First, I want you to breathe in through your nose. Hold it for just a few moments, and then out through your mouth. Do that 2 more times. Into the nose, hold it. Out through the mouth. I'm going to bring you on a little bit of a journey. You're in a small rowboat on a body of water. It's very foggy. You can't actually see where you're going. You have no paddle. You have no oar. There's no rudder on your boat. It's just wandering. You can actually visualize yourself riding on the waves, the ebb and the flow. All that you can really do is let go and surrender and just be open to wherever that boat is going to land. You sit there in peace. You sit there in silence. You pay attention to your breath. And you just stay open. After a period of time, you start hearing voices in the distance, cutting through the fog. Keep hearing something, and you're not sure exactly what's going on. You hear one voice, a bit louder than the others, and then every once in a while, someone will chime in. You get closer and closer, and you realize that the waves are getting a little bit faster. You're coming closer to the shoreline. Your boat just naturally slides in onto the banks. You pull it in, you step out, pull it in offshore just a little bit more, and you start walking toward the voices. You go up a small hill toward a voice that you hear, and this is what you hear. Tubvehun lamaskene ibaruk, dedil honhi malkuta doshmaya. Tubvehun laavwile, dehanun netbayun. Tubvehun lamakike, dehanun nertun laarha. You come closer and you see this man, and he seems to be teaching. There's a little gathering of people, just a few dozen people around the hill. You sit down on the hill. You're alone, completely alone in that boat. Now you're with this gathering of people. You sit and you listen, and you don't necessarily understand what this man is saying, but it's hitting you on a level that you're absolutely sure is quite eternal because it echoes and resonates through your heart. And you sit and listen to him for a period of time longer. You notice that every time he says something, it seems to take you deeper, almost deeper into a flow, deeper into surrender, deeper into emptiness, deeper into the silence, deeper into a stillness within yourself. There's a point where the man comes to completion and he says, Amen. A lot of the people just walk away, but you don't. You walk toward him. You walk up, and although he's facing away, you're keenly aware that he's keenly aware of you, and he turns. Now you're standing right in front of him, and he looks right into your eyes. And you look at him and you say, these teachings sound really great, though I don't exactly understand what you're saying. But if you could tell me only one thing to remember for eternity, what would that one thing be? And this man takes both hands and rests them on your heart in the center of your chest. And he looks directly into your eyes. And he says, Det chabun chad lachad aikana diena achab takun. Love one another as I have loved you. Just rest in the silence. I'm not necessarily going to ask you to bring your awareness back to the room. You can let yourself come back or stay wherever it is that you are, in whatever way feels like what you need to do. I'm going to tone a word 3 times, just alone. I just want you to hear the word, okay? bring your awareness to your heart. Don't touch it. I just want you to bring your awareness to the heart in the center of your chest, okay? Just pay attention. Really pay attention to your heart. If you're able to be absolutely still, you will actually become conscious of the beat of your heart moving through your body. It's very subtle. Without touching it, just bringing your awareness to your heart center. Now I'm going to ask you to breathe in. You're going to breathe in with your nose. You're going to breathe out with your mouth. But you're going to visualize breathing into your heart. And as you breathe into your heart, you're breathing in all of the vital chaya, conscious life energy, the chi, prana, that essence, that light essence, that bristling light essence of the cosmos into your heart. You're going to hold it there for a few moments and then breathe out. And when you breathe out, you're letting go of everything. Release everything. Absolute surrender, absolute emptiness, absolute stillness, okay? Do that 3 times at your own pace, okay? You're breathing in your nose, out your mouth, but the visualization is into your heart, breathing in that energy. Hold it for a few moments and breathe out and release everything. Do this at your own pace, and we'll meet back up on the other side in a few moments, okay? I want to be able to hear it. Make it a good, robust, hearty breath. You could open your eyes if they're not already. What's the center chakra on the body, the heart? There's certain philosophies that believe that the energy, a lot of the essential energy of the human spins out almost like a vortex, an opening, like a huge, I don't know if black hole is a good way to put it, but a huge opening vortex that spins out from the heart. And they speak of how when you relate with life, that you relate from the heart center. And the last time I was at Unity Fellowship was, like, I don't know, May or June or something like that. And I talked a lot about the heart, and I mentioned how if you have 2 heart cells in a laboratory under a microscope beating in their own way, when they come within a certain physical proximity without actually touching, they synchronize naturally. You've got these synchronized, and then you've got another one coming and just beating in their own way, and when they get within a certain proximity, they synchronize. Science has come to the absolute conclusion that they don't know why, but they do say that that connection exists outside of time and space, that it's not something physical, that it's something that they're not able to measure yet. That word that I toned in the beginning is ruach, rucha. Rucha is that word for spirit. And of course, what better season to talk about spirit than right now? And that word spirit, though, is a word that in ancient Aramaic didn't so much mean spirit in the sense that it does in Latin. In Latin, it's a masculine gendered term, spirit. Let me explain that to you, okay? First of all, what's this that I'm feeling on my arm? What do I feel? Breath. That breath that I feel on my arm would be the Latin term spiritus, okay? It's masculine. Masculine means it's something that's real, that's physical, that I can feel. Now, what's interesting is in Aramaic, what rucha really means is breath, because spirit hadn't come into their vernacular yet. So they wouldn't have looked around and seen spirits and thought about spiritual things in the time of Jesus, because spirit was not a word in that region. They had never heard it before, okay? What's unique about that is this. Today we have breath and spirit, okay? Two different words. In that first century in Galilee, there was only the word breath. The word spirit hadn't been created yet. So when you look around and you see spirits, what they actually would have thought of was breath, 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 breath of life. The word for self in Aramaic, napsha, literally means breath of life. Love your neighbor as yourself. The word neighbor means anyone you think of, kerub. Detrakim lekerabak ik napshak. And when you hear love your neighbor as yourself, what that meant was love anyone you think of as the breath of your life. Not simply love your neighbor as yourself. What's the number one thing that happens when someone walks up to you and they say that one thing that'll set you off? You've been in a great mood all day because I've been meditating and I've been locked off in another room away from the screaming children and the idiots that I work with, and now I feel great. So I can go out into that absolute hornet's nest as a conscious, enlightened being, and someone says just the right thing, and all of a sudden, and like demons come flying out of your mouth. But it's their fault, right? It's their fault. What's the first thing that happens for you mechanically when that person says that thing? You go, or someone pulls out in front of you on the road, or you find out that someone you love was tragically killed on the other side of the planet. Did that death cause your upset? You find out, oh, they died 2 days ago, and I just found out now. So obviously it didn't cause it. It resonated something that's already within you. Now that word rucha, though, in Aramaic, rucha, the word for breath, it's also the word for spirit, though that word came later, is a feminine gendered term. What that means is this: what I feel on my arm, that's not breath in the Aramaic sense. That's breath in the Latin sense. That stuff that I feel is a masculine physical thing, the breath. In Greek, the word is pneuma. And I've heard people mangle that word so bad. Pneuma, pneuma, pneuma. I've heard some really weird pronunciations. The word's pneuma, the P is silent. Pneumatic, if you've ever heard that, comes from the word pneuma. In Greek, the word is actually neutered. In Aramaic, the word is feminine. In Aramaic, what I feel on my arm is not breath. It is actually the movement of that air that is what breath means in Aramaic. It's the movement. What rucha means in Aramaic, it means an elemental force that comes from somewhere outside of time and space, but I can feel its effects with my senses, though I don't know where it's coming from. If I say, show me an example of breath, there's breath. In Aramaic, that's not what they meant. It wasn't the hot air that was the breath. It wasn't the physical masculine thing. It was the feminine movement. It was the open flows. Or anything else you can think of. There's breath, electromagnetism, electricity. There's many different examples of rucha. Anything else you can think of? What's that? Water? Well, not necessarily. Water would be a physical thing. The movement of water could be anything that expands and contracts. There's one that's really obvious. Sound, energy, magnetism. Dun-dun. Dun-dun. The heartbeat would be an example of rucha. Science can restart hearts, but they can't start hearts. Haven't figured that one out yet. And it's the same conclusion. It exists outside of time and space. We don't realize how intimately connected the heart and the breath are, especially in the Jesus teachings, in the Christian teachings, because they went into Greek. They went from the Semitic into spoken Semitic into written Greek, koine, which is a real, let's just say, dopey language. It's very blunt. It doesn't have almost any nuance to it. A lot of words were lost immediately, just like when the Old Testament was taken from Hebrew into Greek before the life of Jesus. Lots of meanings were lost. And then it went from Koine Greek, and we had really early Latin. You've got Jerome's Latin Vulgate. You keep moving forward, and you can see what happens. But in those original Jesus teachings, heart and breath were intimately connected. And heart is a word that means this. It's liba in Aramaic. It doesn't just mean this beating thing in my chest. Heart in Aramaic is the place where thoughts, feelings, and emotions come together. It's the place where what you think and what you feel are united. And when he says to be pure in your heart, to live from your heart, he's talking about that, to be pure in your intentions. Knowing that it's not necessarily what you're saying, it's not about the words, it's about the energy and the essence behind them. Because everybody has had situations when you've been talking to someone and words are coming out of your mouth and the energy that they're emitting toward you is nothing like the words that are coming out of your mouth. I'm not implying that you've ever done that to someone else, ever. Especially not within the last 24 hours, but there's a realization, though, of that expansive, there's a natural expansion, there's a natural contraction to everything in the physical realm. And when you start to realize that when you're on the contraction, what you're actually doing is it's the release, it's the time to surrender, it's the time to let go. It's not the time to talk about what's not working and what's falling apart. It's the time to be open so that you can get back to that still center to begin yet another expansion. Okay? And when you're on the expansion, it's not the time to gloat, the time to brag about how expansive you are, but rather to be in absolute gratitude, knowing that there is going to be a time when it's going to start coming back down again. And there's something that Les Brown said to me, my original, and I got to spend some time with him earlier this year, my original motivation to be a speaker 20 years ago. And he said, in the prosperous times, you put it in your pocket. In the lean times, you put it in your heart. And that's when you find out who you truly are. Yeah, we bawled our eyes out with each other in Canada earlier this year. It was awesome to meet him. But there's a little bit of a realization that I want to add to this about breath. There's an astrophysicist, Harlow Shapley, who made the discovery. Has anybody ever heard of argon? I'm sure we've all heard of argon. Argon is actually an inert gas. The human body breathes it in, doesn't use it, and it breathes it back out. But there's one thing that's unique. When a human body or an entity such as a plant breathes in or brings in argon, it tags it with its location before it breathes it back out again. So as you breathe in an argon molecule, you're actually breathing it in, tagging it with where I am right now, and then sending it back out again, even though your body's not using it. And through research, they found that, as an example, in October 2007, when my mother took her last breath from cancer, a really intense, aggressive battle with cancer. If anyone's ever heard my Home and Emptiness CDs about the Beatitudes, I talk very in detailed about that experience. That when she had that last breath out in that room in New Jersey, that Harlow Shapley, astrophysicist, said that 18 months later, on the exact polar opposite end of the earth, the first breath in of a child 18 months later on the exact opposite side of the earth included molecules that came out of my mother's final breath. And that baby breathed it in. So when you hear love anyone you think of as the breath of your life, that's literal because they are the breath of your life. You getting what I'm saying? And I want you to remember of that part of bringing the heart and the breath together when you're speaking with someone. Has anyone actually ever done that before? Of just bringing your awareness to your heart without actually touching it? It's really powerful. It's powerful because all of a sudden it's very subtle. It's an amazing practice to work with, especially when you combine that with the breath. There was actually a sect that we know them today as the Desert Mothers and Fathers, right around the 3rd century, that actually went out and they would actually bring up the subject of all these issues that were happening in society at large, and they would breathe into them as a community. They would actually step into them. They were called the Abid. They would step into them and surrender into the experience of what that was and let it process through themselves. As an example, was everybody breathing normally at, say, 9:15, September 11th, 2001? Was everybody breathing normally that morning at that time? I don't think so. And the GOES satellite system, GOES satellite system, which is a magnetic reading on several different places on the earth, actually sends back readings every 30 minutes. And my friend Michael Ormond was one of the people who worked at the FAA who would actually see these readings coming back every 30 minutes. had an interesting experience where scientists saw this huge spike in the electromagnetic fields of the Earth. And they laid it over a time map, and they found that the first spike, well, actually, there was a little bit more to this, because for about 2 hours previous to the first spike, there was a building in the electromagnetic energy of the Earth, and then there was a huge spike, and then it sort of went back down, not down to normal, and then another big spike, then it went a while, and then it started rising again with another big spike, and then another big spike. They laid it over a time map, and the first spike in the Earth, the magnetic fields of the Earth, happened when the video of the first plane hitting the World Trade Tower, Tower 2, was broadcast across the Earth. The second one happened when the second building was hit on live television. Now, I said something about this. The energy was building for 2 hours before it happened. It was already in the system. It was already in the electromagnetic fields of the Earth. And then it started rising again when the one building fell, and then the other. And there was actually 4 very distinct spikes that they had never seen before. So years go down the line, and all of a sudden someone's looking at these massive spikes in sun. What do they call them from the sun? The solar flares. Massive spikes in solar flares that began to build 2 hours prior to that first video broadcast of the one played hitting the Trade Center, and then the next one, and it mirrored exactly the magnetism of the Earth. So then they had this quagmire. Is the sun causing what's happening on the Earth? Is it reacting to what's happening on the Earth? And you know what they came up with? Number one, they said the magnetic spikes of the Earth were caused by the collective emotional resonance of humanity. But then they had this issue of, well, how does the sun play into this? Because it was instantaneous. As an example, a quantum physicist can send a particle in one direction and another particle in another direction, stimulate that particle, and this one will react instantaneously with absolutely no delay in time or space as soon as that one is stimulated, outside of time and space. It's all connected. There's a quote I want to give you here from JFK. I was up in New Hampshire recording with Dr. Albert LaChance, he's over there all over my table and my DVD and some of my CDs. There's 2 of his books. A few weeks ago, and I'm getting ready to leave. It's like 3 o'clock in the morning, really early. And I told him, hold on, wait a second, I gotta take a picture of something. And he's like, what? I was been at his house for 4 days, and all of a sudden I have to go back in the house to go take a picture of something. And I snap a picture of a plaque of John F. Kennedy. This is about 2 weeks before the anniversary of his assassination, and it said this. He said, our most basic common link is that we all inhabit this small planet. We all breathe the same air. We all cherish our children's future. And we are all mortal. Did the world change just a little bit when Kennedy was gunned down? MLK, Robert Kennedy, John Lennon. To see the way the world has come together around the consciousness of Nelson Mandela in the last few days has been awe-inspiring. Mandela is obviously, he's one of those rare people who can be locked in an 8x8 prison cell for 27 years. How many days is that? 365 times 27. It's a lot of days. And can actually come out the other end, and someone can ask him, do you still hold hatred for your captors? And he can actually say, if I still held hatred for them, they would still hold me. Can you imagine that? And actually gets everybody around rugby as a sport, and actually is able to bring, and it's interesting too, because you're talking about a dark-skinned nation being controlled by light-skinned people, and he still is able to find a way to keep them together and keep them united, because he was able to understand that the stuff that's happening in physicality is coming from something much deeper. It's coming from the center of our hearts. And if I'm looking at you and I'm so sure of what's wrong with what you're doing, what I'm actually doing is not having to feel or think about what's inside of me, and then I don't have to deal with it and I don't have to process it. I have a video that I want to play for you. I always do Christmas-themed messages. This year I wanted to sort of do something different. A video I want to play for you. This is a very dear friend of mine by the name of Nick Patton. It's a choir called Voxy. This song is called Long, Long Walk to Freedom. I know you've heard that phrase before. As a matter of fact, at the London premiere of the movie Long, Long Walk to Freedom about Mandela, the producer actually had to get up right before the film started and make the announcement that he had just passed. Talk about deep. And then at the end, after the credits, they had a very long moment of silence. This video Nick created, it's a flash mob. Everybody's heard of flash mobs, I think, where people just kind of show up at some place like a park and they do this real crazy dance or song or something, and then they just walk off. And then they post it on the internet because it makes sense, right? So they actually did this in Cape Town, South Africa. This was in, I'm not sure, March or April of this year, when they thought that Madiba was going to pass. He had been in the hospital. It didn't look like he was going to make it, so they did this in honor of him. And I've been showing this at a lot of my talks over the past 6 or 7 months or so, and I just wanted to share it with you. It's only 2 minutes long, and to me, the real focus of this is what is said at the end, which is, and the walk starts now. So we're going to play this for you, and then I've got one quote for you, and then we're going to bring it to a close. The words are going to be at the top. It's only about 2 minutes long. My point in playing this for you is this. Let's not just make this another year next year. Just another run-of-the-mill ho-hum going through the motions. Has anybody noticed that time is speeding up? You know, science has an interesting little dilemma that they can't get outside of time and space to be able to monitor time and space. So they can't actually prove or disprove if things actually are speeding up because they can't get outside of it. They haven't figured that one out yet. Not quite. But let's really step up and start living it. Do you understand what I'm saying? Just because you can walk into the other room with your, Stephen Halpern CD, and I love Stephen Halpern, with his crystal bowl and sit there disconnected for 30 minutes, doesn't mean that you're engaging in your life and bringing that peace and presence into all aspects of your relationships. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's about living it. It's about walking it. It's about being that. And I've got a quote from Archbishop Desmond Tutu. And I just love his name Tutu because it makes me think of little ballerinas and things. But I love him. He's been one of those guys. I've got books and books and books of quotes of his that just blow my mind, the little things that he throws out there. And this is something that he said in tribute to Madiba, to Nelson Mandela, just a few days ago. He says, "The sun will rise tomorrow, and the next day and the next. It might not appear as bright as yesterday, but life will carry on. It's time to actually live it, to open what in ancient times was called the Christ chakra. Open the Christ chakra. Ernest Holmes called it being open at the top. Open up and become a flow of the eternal and the infinite. You already are a flow. You already are a channel. But you need to surrender into that, which just means let go. Stop trying to control everything. Stop trying to think you got everything figured out. And just understand you don't have to have everything figured out. You just have to love one another as I have loved you. But really, thank you. Thank you for a beautiful 2013. 2014 is going to be even more beautiful. Thank you. It's about being the change. It's exactly what it's about.
What he said. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to cry about it. I don't want to worry anymore. I don't want to look down from a higher place. I don't need to feel enlightened. I just want to be right here face to face. I don't want to plead no more, get you to believe no more, convince you and put my hands in my pocket. 'Cause this beautiful world I'm waiting to see, I think I'm done trying to change you. This time I'm changing me. Can I get a little finger snap or something? I don't want to think about it. I don't want to fight about it. I don't want to ponder anymore. I don't want to read about it. I don't want to meet about it. I don't want to ask someone else what they think. 'Cause silence is a dangerous thing. Yeah, this bird is telling me it's time to sing. Yeah, bring it on up. 'Cause I wanna walk like it, I wanna live like it, I wanna feel it in my bones, I wanna breathe it into my suffering, so maybe just one soul will see that this beautiful world we're trying to find, we're only gonna get there when we change on the inside, 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 inside. 'Cause if you want to see the light, you gotta be the light, shining on love to share from within, and peace to begin. If not you and me, then who will? On the inside, 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 inside. How come I'm the only one saying here? On the inside, 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 inside. On the inside, 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 like Brother Dale said. On the inside, 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 inside. 'Cause if you want to see the light, you gotta be the light, shining on your darkest day. 'Cause if you want to see the change, you gotta be the change. Just takes one to show us the way. 'Cause there are hands to be held, and stories to tell, and hearts that ache to be free. Love to share from within, peace to begin. If not y'all and me, then who will? On the inside, 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 inside. Focus that energy on your heart right